So I'm going to pick up here on some esoteric links that help bring us all into focus into where we're at today. And one of the concepts we've discussed here is that the deep state aren't some leftovers from the Obama administration that are there to trip up Trump, but are an oligarchical class that has always existed to varying forms throughout their alchemical mixing and remixing over time. But they're always connected with this one empire project, from Assyria to Babylon to Persia to Greece to Rome, through the many iterations in the medieval and modern world that we find culminating in the Anglo-American Empire. So their project, their great work, as they call it in their occulted groups, has been to create this master or messianic class that will that they believe is now approaching ascension or the point of singularity. So I just want to pick up on a couple of these threads that continue from the 19th century. We talked about Malthus, we talked about Darwin, we talked about Huxley and Sanger and so forth. The esoteric piece we can pick up to some extent in the Lunar Society. Darwin's grandfather would start this. It was a collection of Rosicrucians and Freemasons that would meet together during the full moon phases. That's very scientific, of course, to discuss the sort of international project of reworking these ancient esoteric ideas from the pagan world that will be called evolution, and to create some kind of science or something that sounds like science to connect this idea together. And what's interesting is, who do you have at these early meetings beginning in 1794? You have dominant industrialists, inventors, such as on this side of the ocean, Benjamin Franklin. You would have people like the dominant manufacturing class, the Priestleys, uh, James Watt, of course, the inventor of the steam engine. Point being here is one of the tenets of Hermetic Kabbalah is that you want an encyclopedic mind to bring together for this project, this agenda, and then the intellectual infrastructure to disseminate the plan. So that's what's really going on with these extremely esoteric roots of evolution and population planning that we can locate at least one place is in the Lunar Society that would pull together the Anglo-American elite in terms of the planning, but the time would have to be right for the dissemination. They waited until the middle of the 19th century with Darwin, and then the plans were in place to kind of push that out through the university systems and the publications by the late 19th century, and mix it into this credo that we'll call social Darwinism, the idea that the oligarchs have to gain even more power at the expense of working folk, we could call it. So Thomas Francis Galton, of course, would coin the term eugenics, and he himself wouldn't come up with these kind of harsh rhetoric of Margaret Sanger that, you know, half the world are weeds and need to be eliminated. He would sort of put out the science of eugenics and sort of systematize the structure. But this idea that there are superiors and inferiors, and within that there was sort of a messianic class that had a plan for ascension. And who are the proponents of this? Everybody from Herbert Hoover to Winston Churchill to President Wilson to Adolf Hitler. So there is no divide between East and West with this idea. This is truly an international idea. All the players that went into creating the conflict of World War I and resolving the conflict of World War I, all the players that went into creating the conflict and resolving the conflict of World War II were the head key representatives of this international eugenics movement.